Hi there, family and friends. Welcome to Bless TV's One-on-One With. I am Omar Oliphant, your host, and today we have with us the Women's, Children's and Adolescents Ministries Director of the Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, giving administrative oversight to the work of the women, children, and adolescents in the East Jamaica, Central Jamaica, Northeast Jamaica, North Jamaica, and the West Jamaica conferences of Seventh-day Adventists. She is the superwoman with the super ministry. Welcome, Dr. Lorraine Vernal.
Thank you so much, Dr. Oliphant.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, giving God thanks.
You're wearing two very powerful pins.
Yeah.
One is the Women's Ministries pin,
Yes, sir.
and the other is End It Now.
Yes, sir.
Ellen White makes some statements in relation to women's ministries, and I'm going to read it, and I want you to just share what you think on it. She says in welfare ministry, quote, "The Lord has a work for women as well as for men.
Amen.
They may take their places in his work at this crisis, and he will work through them. They can do in families a work that men cannot do, a work that reaches the inner life. They can come close to the hearts of those whom men cannot reach. Their labor is needed." I'm going to read a second one. Ellen White says, quote, in evangelism, "When a great and decisive work is to be done, God chooses men and women to do this work, and it will see the loss if the talents of both are not come by."
Amen.
End
my
of
brother.
quote.
Yes, sir. I endorse those statements. And that just speaks to the reality that God never intended for us to be having these challenges with, and I can be frank. There have been individuals who say, "Oh, a woman think that." Ellen White is telling us that men and women are to work together. And I speak to my sisters very sternly when it comes on to, excluding men from certain events. When I go to an event, even if it is being sponsored by a woman, I don't expect that they're not going to think of that men and even boys can be there. So I'm following what Ellen White says. She's inspired by God, and that is what God wants. He wants everybody to be using their talents, to be using their gifts to carry forth his mandate, which is to tell the world that he loves them, show the world that he loves them and by our actions, and help them in preparing to go home to live with Jesus when he comes.
You sound, every time I speak with you, I get the sense of a woman that is properly grounded, solidly grounded and rooted. You know yourself. You're not seeking and fishing around for praise or criticism. You're grounded in yourself. Where did this come from?
And can I say it took very long? Yes, and as you can see, I'm no chicken. But I grew up in Jonestown, which many years later I learned is an inner city. But my parents...
So growing up, you didn't know that?
No, excuse me, there are certain things that may be characteristic of it now. But when I was growing up, it was about people looking out for one another. Even with politics, which so many people... I remember, my father was a certain color, which I think you would approve. But when they had politics, you'd find one set coming from up the road,
and another.
The other, and they join in the middle, and they dance, and they go. So sadly, I was there to the point when the wars took over and people lost their lives because of their affiliation. So I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. And so I grew up in Jonestown. My father and mother with my brothers and sisters. We were not well off, humble household. And my father would insist, he's not taking us enough, but he would send us to church. And so I grew up loving church. And I loved school as well. So we went to the school that we, would walk to school. And I loved going to church, so I would go to any church. I only wanted to know that it's a church event, and I would go. But my relationship with the Seventh Adventist Church came when I was a
What
teenager.
was it that drew you to go so much to church events? You're young. Why are you
Yeah,
not
as a
running up and
child
down and having fun? What are you talking about
Well,
church?
I used to like that because there was a gentleman who one church that I used to go to Beeston Street. This gentleman named Brother Roy, he would walk around the community, collect the children, and we are just following behind him to church. At church, we were involved in activities, and I guess that's where I learned certain things. And I will confess, my brothers used to dress up every day in the suits, but
Yes.
they're not at church. But I stayed at church. Yes, man, them gone with, they took they're alive and they can admit if they don't want to. They would take our offering that our father would give us. My parents did not take us to church. But my brothers, they would take the offering and gone to the Crown and Anchor Men. And that's where they spend church. But we, as the littler ones, my brother and my sisters, we would stay at church. So we participated.
That sounds like a large family, man.
Yes, man, 6 of us children. And
6 children?
6, yes.
Wow.
6 of us, 3 boys, 3 girls. And I was the eldest of the 3 girls. And the middle child, so I had my 2 big brothers, then me. And they were like 7 and 9 years older than me. Then I was the next one. And I had a sister who was born before me who died. So my father loved her so much, and then so he made sure that I had Teresa in my middle name because he's Catholic. And he said from my mother got pregnant, he knew it was a girl because I was replacing the one that died. And then I had another brother plus 2 younger sisters. So that's the 6 of us.
So you grew up in a family that had gender balance?
Yes, yes, and parents, because, there are many, even now, children who didn't have mother and father. And my mother was from the school where the mother stayed home. So she stayed home with us, and my father went out. He didn't have steady work, so there were times when, as we say in Jamaica, nothing broke. With no food. And I remember once him telling me how he thought about hurting himself because I'm a foodie. And I was there all day waiting on the food. And when he came home in the evening, I said, Diddy, because we didn't call him Daddy, we said Diddy because my big brother couldn't say Daddy. And I said, Diddy, you bring food? And he said, no. And he said, I put down now crying.
Oh, no.
Hungry children, not an easy thing.
Yes, that is true.
And I cried and cried. And he said he left and said, boy, I was going to jump off somewhere because he couldn't take the fact that the children were hungry and crying. But he said he walked somewhere. Johnstone will live and he reached Spanish Town. You know that is a nice walk.
Yeah, that is a good distance.
And he said he got some money and he walked from Spanish Town and came back to Kingston. And so we had dinner. And so sometimes those dinners, you're half asleep or full asleep and, but he went. But my father, I must say, he stayed with us. And my mother stayed home. And then after a while, we started having like chickens and duck and pigeons. Let me say, that I can tell you, the pot never emptied because I learned how to deal with the chickens. I'm never afraid of killing them because killing them meant food and cooking. So there are certain things I started because my brothers, they were like boys, finding places to go, but I would stay and try to do certain things. So when I finally passed from Merle Grove High School.
Yes, ma'am.
That's my school. That's the school I went to. I really wanted to go to Wolmer's, but I would never give up a day because I loved it at Merle Grove at Constant Spring.
And Merle Grove is a girls' school?
Yes, a girls' school. So that's where I went because I wasn't so dunce. And I'm saying all of this because sometimes there are persons who look on and they don't know people's story.
Yes.
I was bright enough that when I went, my mother took me to primary school. They didn't put me in grade 1. I was too bright for grade 1.
Yes.
So I went to grade 2.
Yeah.
And then I went to grade 3 and 4, and then I went to 6.
You moved from 4 to 6?
Yes, boss. But you know what happened in my first year of grade 6? Not a book. So when everybody else doing their common entrance preparation, me ringing bell because I didn't have any books. So my teacher, Mrs. Lewis, called my mother in and said, look after your girl. And the next year I passed from her. And so I understand challenges. I understand what it means not even to have mattress. Yes, but and that's why I tell people, if I lose everything now, I will survive.
Yeah.
Because I know what it is to have hard times, and that's why I can appreciate what I have. and telling people that this may look like what your life is now, but life can change any minute.
So your identity, your this strong self that we see, when you walk onto that stage and you open your mouth and you start speaking, you command, you have a presence, you're rooted. And so you had a family that was gender balanced, so you got to see firsthand perhaps how a woman is to be treated. Yes? What are some of the things that are do's and don'ts? And those carried over with you from Merle Grove upward.
Yes. And I will say I learned how a woman should be treated, because sometimes it wasn't what should have happened. And yes, but sometimes he had a little wandering eye. But he was always there. And right up to the end, he was there, even when my mother passed in 2014. And my growing up changed, I think, yes, when I became a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. By the time I was a teenager. And it's amazing how I became a Seventh-day Adventist. I was part of the Merle Grove's hockey team. We met on Saturdays.
You used to play hockey?
Liquor in the boss, not because you see me here.
Come on now.
Let me tell you something.
Come on, girl.
Football, netball, table tennis, hockey. I was on the hockey team. In fact, a group of us, and that's, she's now deceased, Karen Morgan. She used to be Karen Alston. We all went to Merle Grove together. She was one of the best goalkeepers in hockey. Karen was exposed to Seventh-day Adventism. So one Sabbath, which we now call it, because it was a Saturday practice, we went for practice. She told us she wasn't coming back again. And Karen gave us a revelation sermon.
Tell about the beast.
Man, and how we're going to burn it.
Yes,
man. Look here now, I went home.
Good old Adventist.
Good old Adventist sermon.
Preaching there.
So when I went home, my neighbor is a Seventh-day Adventist. Bartley, sister, she became Sister Bartley afterwards. I said, Sister Bartley, I come in church with your Sabbath, because I don't want to be burnt. And Doc, from that day until now,
yes.
I'm going to, so I went to the Regent Street. Now, I didn't know that there was a church in Jonestown. So I grew up in Jonestown, as I told you. So we just walked through the gully, go on the gully edge and walk down to Regent Street, Seventh-day Adventist Church. So that became my base and still is my base, where I've had every type of experience possible. But the leaders were forward thinking, and let me explain why. When I became a member, the very Sabbath, they asked if there's anybody who wants to help with the children's band, and I volunteered. So from the very day I was baptized, I was a member of the team that led the children. Pleiades band, I can never forget it. That's the band I helped with in Adventist Youth. And I went through, from that was just the first of many positions I had. They saw in me the ability to, I even did a youth crusade. 4 persons were baptized, sir.
Wow.
Yes, man. While I was going to school, so sometimes I was in my uniform when I was preaching. And I was AY leader at a point, Sabbath school leader, personal ministries leader. The only thing I wasn't was deaconess. That's the only department I didn't go into. So I basically served in every department. Oh, and there was not women's ministries initially, and when it came, I was not really involved in women's ministries. But the children's department, I became the leader for the children's department, and when children's ministries came about, then we had children's ministries. So from the very first day, I was involved in ministry. And one of the things I loved about my leaders, at one point, every main department was headed by a female.
At Regent Street?
Which was not the norm. But we didn't know it wasn't the norm, because you had other young ladies like myself who were willing to be used, who were involved in ministry. And so you had, superintendent, AY, personal ministries, females. But we give God the glory that we were able to participate.
Your mom in all of this, what do you remember about your mom's influence in your life personally, in terms of your personal value system, your worldview, your upbringing, your shaping of yourself?
Okay, so my mom, as I said to you, she stayed home. But she's somebody who, her thinking is that the man is number one. So, you know, there are certain things I went on the other side of seeing things. And I'm just being real. My mother would, she was there. She would do everything and teach us as girls what to do. And for example, when, you know, as I told you, my teacher called her in, she made sure that I got my things. I went to school, we passed our exams. And I thank her and my father for providing for us, because it's when I went to school and you learn certain things. You learn that you could do certain things. I learned certain skills. So at one point I was at home, I'm cooking everything possible. And my brothers were very willing to be
the eaters.
The eaters.
Yes.
Especially
Praise the Lord.
My big brother.
If you're cooking and you're expending all of that energy,
yes,
we wouldn't want you to cook and the food is wasted.
Especially my oldest brother.
Yes,
Man, Barry,
yes,
he just want to know, and he would help me to rub up the cake and everything. So my mother helped me to see that, you know, you look after your house, you learn to do certain things, because she herself, and I must say, you know, she didn't get a fraction of the privileges that they gave us. She grew up, you know, very disenfranchised. She, you know, could say suffered abuse, but then she found my father and they were in love, and he took her and he had her and he stayed with her right up until the end, and they got married. When I became a Seventh-day Adventist, I realized they should not be living together like that. So I had influence and got them to get married and changed their relationship, because they were together all these years when they were teenagers. But when I became a Seventh-day Adventist, and that's one of the things I think with them as well, they listened to me because they realized that their efforts were not in vain. I'd learned certain things. I learned certain principles. And so when I became, I said, Mom, you know, you need to get married, because, you know, that is what God wants. And then my mother became a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So she was a member of the church until death. My father still holds to his Catholic beliefs, but very respectful of my belief system, and we pray for him and we encourage him, but he still holds to that. So we are hoping that before anything happens, he will still do it, but he still holds to that. But we still love him.
There you have it, a conversation with the powerful lady who commands the respect and the leadership of the Women in Jamaica Union Conference. We're going to be speaking a little about that, because the largest share of the membership is in fact female.
Amen.
And so to have conversation with Dr. Lorraine Vernal is definitely something very important. This is Bless TV. It's one-on-one today with Dr. Lorraine Vernal, the Women's, Children's and Adolescents Ministries Director at the Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. We're going to throw to our sponsors, take a brief word, and we'll be right back.
1 in 3 women around the world are victims of physical or psychological repression. End it now. More than 135 million girls and women have undergone female genital mutilation, and an additional 2 million girls and women are at risk each year, 6,000 every day. End it now. In the United States, 1 woman is battered every 15 seconds, usually by her husband or boyfriend. End it now. 1 in 5 women around the world will be the victim of rape or attempted rape in her lifetime. End it now. Why now? Because we can't wait.
This is Bless TV. Catch the vision, share the mission, share in the mission. I am Omar Oliphant, your host for this program, One-on-One With, and today we're talking with Dr. Lorraine Vernal. Dr. Vernal, listen to me. I have listened to you so many times. I've been inspired by your story. There is something that people do not know. I don't think a lot of individuals know. That you are indeed a heart patient.
Yes, I'm a cardiac patient.
Every time you see Dr. Lorraine Vernal, you should know she has come this close to death's door. Talk to us about your issue with heart health.
Okay, sir. So, my now husband, we were courting, and I'm trying to remember sometime if it is after we got. But one day I was going to work because I got work all the way I lived in Jonestown. So we're looking at getting married. So I was on my way to my teaching job in Cavaliers because it was so hard to get teaching jobs after I finished Michael. Yeah, I graduated in 1984. Or 84. Yeah, 84. And so I tried and I finally got a job. So, going there, planning to get married and all of that. So one morning on my way, running to catch my country bus, because it's not like now. Yes.
With JUTC.
The men knew me, man. The men knew me. And when I hear they hear the horn, you better reach up there. But they would wait. So they were actually waiting on me.
Yes.
And Pastor, only remember running. I felt like, I was losing my breath. And I hear somebody saying, no, man, she faint. Ooh. See her eyes opening there. And when I'm looking up at some people, I flat on my back. I said, what on earth is this? So, sometimes you don't know. So I went to Dr. William Foster. So they found out that I had a heart murmur, and one of my valves was damaged. And it came to the fore even more. So yes, but my husband didn't let that stop him. And we got married. With the sick
damaged heart.
Oh my gosh, yes. So that didn't stop him. So, and then when I got pregnant, I was having serious challenges like going upstairs and all of that. So when they went, finally the doctor, in consultation with Dr. Foster, in consultation with him, they started to monitor me. I had to go very regularly, doctor. Oh, she was so sweet. Oh, Lord, I'm trying to remember her name. Oh, old age, yes, 30 odd years ago. And in fact, they were hoping that I could have had the baby without an operation. But when I got nearer to, I was about 6 months pregnant, they said, no, it's not. It's not going to work. So, in fact, this was with my second child. The first one, they monitored me, and that was a traumatic experience, sir, because of what happened with the medical team. The person who was delivering me it was like an intern, so he didn't realize that he should have done certain things with me. And when the doctor came in, he said, she's a cardiac patient. And so, I really thought seriously about getting pregnant again. But I was saying, I just wanted to have two. So when I got pregnant with the second one now, they were monitoring me from the beginning.
Yes.
And it was really rough, not breathing so easily. And so they decided when I was 6 months pregnant that they had to operate on me. It could mean that I would maybe lose the baby, or I could die. That's as serious as it was. And when I was going to do the operation, I told my husband, I want his name in my bank book. I was trying to, because I was saying, maybe I don't make it. That's how serious it was. And when I went into the operation, let me tell you, and when I as far as I realized that I spent hours. I remember in the midst of the operation, it's like, I heard them calling my name, and they said something else, and the echo just went off again. And when I came out, Pastor, not a word in English would come out of my mouth.
Wow.
I lost my voice for months. So when my husband came in, and I am anxious to talk to him, I'm doing sign language, and he said, as far as I was showing, he's like, I telling him that they cut off my breast or cut off. But he was, yeah, and I find that the doctors weren't very forthcoming with information, because like when I was on the ward, they had me right before where the nurses' station was. And I heard the nurses talking. I'm wondering, they didn't realize that I was alive and could hear them. And they were saying, no, you know, they're giving me morphine and they should not be giving me because I'm pregnant. Because I was sleeping. If I didn't get some painkiller, the pain was excruciating when I came out. And the nurses were, I'm realizing that maybe I should not have been getting this medication. So you know what I decided? I decided I'm not sleeping that night and I'm not taking the medication. And man, I fixed my bed. I wind up my bed and I wind it down. I fixed my little table and I was up whole night. And from that day, they didn't give me any medication again. I didn't need it to sleep because if I didn't get it, I couldn't sleep. And friends came to see me. They don't come back. That's as serious as I couldn't see how I looked because I was strung up all over. And my sister came and she stood way over. Like I'm here, she stood way over there and looked at me. She couldn't deal with coming nearer to me to talk to me. And she just came and left. That's my sister and my Bunanono sister. I guess how bad I look. But my husband, let me tell you.
Pause, before you get to your husband. In your consultation before the surgery, did they advise you or was it foreseen that your loss of voice would have been?
No, long after asking, I found out I had a stroke. So while I was under,
while you were under.
So that is why they were, because I heard somebody saying, Lorraine, open your eyes, open your eyes. So it seemed as if that's when I had the stroke. And would you believe me that the doctor did not tell me until like 1 year after? Let me tell you, sometimes, and it's now, you know, you say to people, ask the doctors everything. I was not told anything in terms of the possible implications, nothing
effects.
Like that. So when I came, as I said to you, as a teacher, I could not do anything until I got back my voice. So for, you know, because I was sick, I was out for a while and then I had the baby. And I must thank God, my school wasn't, you know, they gave me the time that I needed. And the delivery wasn't bad, you know, for my second daughter.
Right.
Yeah, the first one was really terrible, but the second one wasn't as bad. They were all there. The doctors were there with me, but sadly my husband had to run to get my other daughter. So by the time they came, I had already had my daughter. But for months, I could not talk. All of this side. You see me moving this hand here now?
This left side was dead.
You see this hand here now?
Yes.
This God, I tell you now. God do this. I couldn't do anything with this hand. This hand couldn't move like this. And for years, my left side, you could feel the impact of the stroke. And, well, thank God my daughter wasn't hurt. She, normal baby. And for months, when I just got back my voice, a few months after, I was talking with a slur, talking very slowly, but...
No, man, pause there, Dr. Vernal. Pause there.
Yeah, that's right.
Because these are major life changes.
Yes.
You're speaking about a stroke.
Yes.
Having to deal with a baby.
Yes.
Having also to deal with your left side.
Yeah, loss of use.
How did that affect you mentally, emotionally?
Well, I think because I had support, I had people praying for me. I had people too who helped, you know. My tower of strength is Michael Anthony Vernal. So he was there. I mean, they were from both my children. He only needed to have my, and they didn't really get breast much because I don't know why I didn't have much milk. So they got bottle. He's the one, he fed them, he did everything. Most times by the time I get up, it's just to go back to sleep. That's the type of husband I have. And so he was there. So I think that helped because I would be at home. So, you know, when I'm at home, and we had helpers. We had helpers at the time. So we had persons who would help me. And he would go for the bigger one and, you know, see to her at school and so forth. So I had help, and I know he was my main source of support. And other people in my family,
Yes.
you know,
Yes, the support system.
The support system was there. So that is what helped me through it. And then I started teaching again, and then my voice, you know, started coming back. So that's why I tell people, leave me alone now. Sometimes when you hear me talking, just allow me. Because there were times when I didn't think I would talk again.
Yes.
And I thank God for the privilege. So even where I am now, Pastor, nowhere in my timeline plan did I envision being at Jamaica Union. I never, for nothing, anywhere I have served, I became vice principal.
Of the same school?
Yes, ma'am. And then I left and went to NCU.
To do further studies or to work?
No, to work.
Okay, so you were at NCU as a lecturer?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to, Dr. Grace Kelly came to my house basically to interview me.
Yeah.
You see, I tried in a different department and they told me no.
Okay.
I went and did it and they said no. But then, I don't know how she heard about me, but then she came to Kingston, came to my home, and then I became a part of the behavioral sciences department. Yeah. So God has been awesome. God, and that's why I can't be ungrateful to God. Because He has brought me through some real challenges. And so when I talk to people, I can talk from my experience.
That's right.
Yeah?
That's
I
right.
know. And don't think it was easy, you know, because some of the brethren,
Yes.
all one sister say, why am I going to get pregnant again? When we, you know, these are things people say unkind things, and you hear, you know, even my first daughter, she's still on the slender side, but she took long, she just did everything differently. The other one was, Speedy Gonzalez. But when, you know, people would say, something wrong with your daughter. The doctor telling me that something is okay. Because she's slim, she didn't eat everything. And some people would be saying something wrong with her, I'm going to have one next one. These are some of the things. So sometimes I say to brethren, it's better you don't have anything to say, it's better you pray. So sometimes when people tell me awful things that I say to them, darling, I said, been there, done that. That has not stopped me from moving forward. When a little brother, he's dead now, brother Gordon from Berry and Gordon, the duo,
Yes.
but stood with me in the church yard one day and said, you know, you're going to go to Jamaica Union. I laughed at him. Oh, I must read Jamaica Union. That time I was at East. He said, you're going, I said, Elder, I know you love me and you have good plans for me, but ridiculous. So here I am. And so I say to people, it doesn't matter where you are from. It's whose you are. I belong to Jesus. And one of the things I've been willing, so from the very first day from I came into the church, I'm willing to help. And I'm willing to train others and tell others that you can do it. And that's one of the things that keeps me, that's one of the things that I would think is the foundation of my women's ministries now, where I don't judge people based on where they are from or who people think they are. As long as they're willing.
Your life experience and exposure and background has given you a window through which you can view the struggles and adversities of life in a much different light, because perspective is very important. You can literally be going through hell and at the same time be in a healthy place mentally as best as possible. And I find that in conversations with you, you have modeled this kind of resilient spirit, this drive that even if there is a wall, I can be able to get past it. I can be able to
find a way to get through it, yes.
And that is what you're part of, what you bring to the women's ministries table.
Yes, sir.
But before we get to women's ministries, I want to find out, so tell us a little bit more about the heart journey. So since...
So because sometimes as if I forget that, you know. Yes, sir. So with Dr. Foster, I was put on a regimen, where every month I had to get an injection, penicillin.
You're right.
Yes. And then after I did the operation, they took me off it. So when I just started...
You did what operation?
When I did the same heart operation.
Right.
Yes. So when I did that operation, I was on it for a few months and then the doctors took me off it. The surgeon and the others, they said, I didn't need to get it every month anymore, because there are persons who are cardiac patients who have to still get an injection every month. And I used to get it every month. So that's it. So now it's only, okay, there are certain things, like for example, and that's why when COVID I had to be so careful. Because normally normally, if I get like
A cold.
bad cold, I have to spend at least 5 days in the hospital
What?
for antibiotics to get into my system. So even when I used to just go to do any dental work, they have changed that now in the medical field. But I used to have to get antibiotics before just to do cleaning.
Wow.
So and I don't have to do that anymore. When the heart operation was about opening my valve because it was constricted. So instead of, it was not opening. So that's why I was having the shortness of breath. So the doctors told me that maybe in 10 years' time, which is 20 odd years plus, I would maybe need to get a valve replacement. I've never had to do that because I used to go regularly to the clinic and so forth, and they would check on me. Periodically, I go to do my ECG or echocardiogram to see how my heart is doing, and I let them know my history. So I go to Heart Foundation, and I used to, when I was down by Mandeville, I would go to the Cobblestone where they have a heart. So I do that check, and up to last year I did my ECG and echo. So I just need to do it this year. So I keep in touch. It's a new cardiologist I'm going to, but that's what I don't really have any medication that I take now for my heart. Jesus sort of fix it. So,
Dr. Vernal, for the ladies who are out there and for patients with maybe not the same but similar or adjacent issues relating to health, a lot of persons do not have what it takes in them without support systems or assistance to deal with these significant life changes. Some feel depressed, some enter into a gloomy state, some lose their personality, even their identity. What has been some of the practical steps? So when you feel overwhelmed, when it becomes pressuring, when it becomes, it just engulfs you, you might break down and cry. Speak to some of our women about how they can be able to go, some tips, tips to survive.
Okay, so some of them are going to be where you need to be in touch with your medical personnel.
Right.
So
that is good.
And be very careful listening to some. I know there are many videos and people are saying throw away your medication. Still keep in touch. I would suggest if you want to go that route, go to somebody who is trained in both areas.
Both medicine and naturopathy.
Yes. So check somebody like that who can help you to balance it. Stress is one of the greatest killers. So we have to learn to de-stress. Sometimes we are trying to kill even church work. You can't kill church work.
Mercy.
You can't kill housework.
Look at that.
Some of us take vacation, and all we do from the very first day of vacation is cleaning house. And sometimes the other day my president was going to say, sir, for the first 2 days, turn off your phone and just lie in and just rest. Get your body back in sync. Because we don't do that. Sometimes we feel like it is a sin. So look after yourself. Get support. And one of the things I've learned even through COVID, support doesn't always have to be face-to-face like this. It can be on the telephone. I have made friends with people in different parts of the world using the phone, using Zoom. Use whatever medium you can use to get support from one another. Because sometimes when people hear, when I talk to them, they say, oh, true, they can't believe. And there are some things you have to just have a mindset. I've decided I'm not wasting my time on some issues and some people. Some people are just negative. Pray for them, but keep out of their way. Some people only tell you negative things and tear you down and distress you. So you have to know how to balance your life. And I think at this age, I've finally, because though I don't trick myself into thinking that everybody says, oh, Sister Vernal, no. Some people don't like Sister Vernal, but I'm God's girl, so you better love me and pray for me. You understand me? And stop worrying about getting people's approval. You have a few people support you, rock on them. Stop trying to get complete support. It does not. Look at what they did to Jesus, who healed and looked. So stop stressing yourself over certain things. Accept some realities. I'm menopausal. I am an advocate for those who are menopausal. So I give talks on it. I tell women, be comfortable with yourself. Learn how it impacts us, do things, get rid of certain things out of your closet because some of them too hot. Get some nice, cool clothing. These are certain things. So some simple things. Watch what you eat. Our relationships are key. I'm blessed to have a supportive and loving husband. Some people don't have that. But you may have a loving and supporting church brethren. That's why I tell the brethren, spend more time loving and caring for one another instead of us quarreling over certain things and doing certain things. Because we, as human beings, as social beings, we need each other.
So you're saying check up with your doctor.
Yes.
Ensure you're in, check your mental health.
Yes.
When you're going to rest, don't feel guilty about not working.
Yes.
Take your rest. Have your support system in place. Because those are necessary for persons as they go through these difficult periods.
Yes, sir.
We're speaking with Dr. Lorraine Vernal, Women's, Children's and Adolescents Ministries Director for the Jamaica Union Conference, a trained teacher, one who is skilled in the art of reaching through to children. No wonder she's the Children's Ministries Director for this time. We'll be right back after we take a few messages from our sponsors. This is Bless TV, one-on-one with Dr. Vernal.
Under the theme Rescuing Our Mission, our Women's Ministries has organized impactful conventions and prayer summits. We held our Women's Convention at Maypen Seventh-day Adventist Church, where we inspired and equipped women to embrace their mission with renewed vigor. This year, the convention at Brayton SDA Church continued this momentum, fostering a community of empowered and mission-driven women. Our 2023 Prayer Summit was a powerful time of spiritual renewal and intercession. In 2024, we gathered again, united in prayer to seek God's guidance for our lives and ministries. In 2023, Heather Dawn led our Women Leaders Empowerment Seminar, providing valuable insights and strategies for effective leadership. This year, our leadership seminar continued to build on that foundation, equipping women to lead with confidence and purpose. Our efforts to rescuing lives have been marked by transformative evangelistic initiatives and community outreach. The 2023 Proclaim Evangelistic Series was a tremendous success, culminating in numerous baptisms and transformed lives. This year's series continued to spread the gospel message, reaching even more souls for Christ. Through Operation Huldah, our local churches have been active in their communities. Our End It Now marches have been powerful demonstrations against violence and injustice. From Manchester to Spanish Town and recently in Clarendon, we marched to raise awareness and advocate for change. We also provided essential services such as food packages and health checks, directly impacting the well-being of our communities. In rescuing our value, we emphasized the importance of freedom and dignity for all women. Freedom Week 2023 focused on educating and empowering women to recognize their inherent worth and fight for their rights. This year's Freedom Week will expand on these efforts, reaching more women with messages of hope and empowerment. We celebrate the lives changed and the hope restored through our collective efforts. Together, we continue to rescue lives, uphold our mission, and affirm our value.
Welcome back. This is Bless TV. Catch the vision. Join the mission. This is one-on-one with Dr. Lorraine Vernal. I'm your host, Omar Z.D. Oliphant, walking you through the life experience of one of the most formidable women in women's ministries, the leader of the women here in Jamaica Union Conference, its 5 fields and conferences. Dr. Vernal, Women's Ministries is without a doubt one of the most powerful ministries in the Adventist Church. Very active, a lot of women. About how many women we have in Jamaica Union?
Sir, in terms of that statistics,
You're not sure about it, but I'm sure we have over 60 to 70%.
That's the percentage that is used in the World Church. And so I would think, when you look at the churches, most times, it's mostly women we see. So while I think we are working on that, that's one of our, in terms of our strategic missions for this year,
Yes.
quinquennium, which finishes next year, but we're trying to have a better feel as to what our numbers are. The challenge is that sometimes it's very hard to get the data. And we're working on it, but it's very hard because when I send in a report to the Inter-American Division, I know it is not the real thing. And what I do sometimes when I go to events, I try to get an idea as to the numbers because many times the fields they are not getting it from the churches. I said, but we know. Like recently when we had our women's convention, you see, Kencut was full and overflowing. I did not do 1 ounce of advertisement. It was full and overflowing.
Yeah, the women don't need advertisement.
They don't need advertisement. You know that. I had to stop. We had to tell them everybody couldn't come.
The women's ministries, with due regard to the other ministries, seems to have been able to collaborate and to motivate and to galvanize its base.
Yes, sir.
Your story brings to the fore issues of challenges that you have personally overcome. The World Church, however, has identified 6 particular issues that are of critical concern to women globally.
Yes.
Illiteracy, poverty, threats to health, women's workload, abuse, and the lack of training, mentorship, and leadership opportunities.
Yes.
In your work as Jamaica Union's leader, you're here now for how long in this capacity?
Since 2010. 2010.
Since
Same
2010.
time, yes.
So 12 years
Yes.
you have been here. No, 14
years.
14 years, my apologies. 14 years there as Women's Ministries. What do you see as, is the identified 6 for the global church identical to any that we have here in Jamaica Union? Or do we have separate issues here in Jamaica? Poverty, illiteracy, opportunities for women, threats to health, training.
Well, those issues came out of a worldwide survey.
Right.
And so we are impacted. And one of the things since 1995, when Women's Ministries was officially voted, because it started before, as we were talking earlier.
And Irish Henry was the one who...
Yes, this lady. And then because she died, it didn't have anything until they voted again in 1995. So since then, Women's Ministries operates on 3 premises, or 3, if you want to call them, 3 tenets: nurture, empowerment, outreach.
Okay.
Nurture has to do with the women themselves getting closer to God, learning, using the various media that exist. Empowerment has to do with training and equipping them for service, which is the 3rd one, which is outreach. So we are engaged in the Inter-American Division, as part of the Inter-American Division, in getting these things done. And so we have 4 levels of women's ministries certification. That's just one aspect of training. Let me tell you, if we were to try to print the material that we have, we would need a very big room. Because there are materials for grieving, materials for young women, there are materials for busy women. So Heather Dawn Small has really, over the years, created because she gave me these resources, and every time we get new ones through the Inter-American Division Director, we will get them. And can I tell you that these things are shared? And I want to, as this is seen in Jamaica, and hopefully with some of our leaders, many times my leaders will call me, Doc, Sister Vernal, I need this. I said, did you look in the resources that you have access to? Because what I've done, and one of the things, for want of a better term, if I want to say one legacy I would want to have, is that my mission is to make any little church in any little nook, the woman who is women's ministries leader should have access. So if I can't get to her, I find out the pastor and say, Pastor, I will send you the link and you give it to her if I find somebody in the church. So I have made these resources, I've put them in folders because I can't print these things. There are too many. And I've made them available, and one of my heartaches or disappointments is that we don't use these resources that we have. But let me tell you, there are people who are not Adventists. During COVID, when I had training, I had people from abroad who joined, people from the small islands who joined those training, and I give them access, and they are using it. There are persons who, I remember one of my most gratifying experiences last year, this sister who did the training, she was certified in women's ministries. And I said, look, you know, sister, I don't want to hear you telling me that you can't do anything. I said, go and get a little laptop. She went abroad, she get a laptop. And she called me, she said, Sister Vernal, I'm working on the projector now. You understand? That is what I want to hear. Yes. And there have been women over the years who they will call me and say, Sister Vernal, you can't come to preach. I said, darling, hold on. There's a sermon. If you study that sermon and get familiar with it, you can adapt and adjust it, and you can be the preacher. And when one comes, she says, Sister Vernal, when I did that sermon, the people saying, you are here all these years? So that is my thing.
Empowerment.
It cannot be about Lorraine. Women's ministries cannot be about the directors. It must be about every little woman, whether she be a higgler, a farmer, a dressmaker, a lawyer. Each person must know that she has.
Or a housewife like your mom.
Somebody at home who, you know, that's your choice, and you're doing that to look after the children and working with your husband. You can stay right at home, access these resources. So that's what I do. And when I go to visit anywhere, I say, do you have the resources? Give me your email. You don't have an email, give me your son's email, and I'll send it to him. So my thing, empowerment is something. And in these resources, some years ago, they had one on mental health out of GC from Women's Ministries. We have it, wellness, and it touches different aspects of emotional and all of that. So we have resources, but it's for the people to use. And my thing is, it can't be that I have it at the union. I give it to my counterparts, but I also make it available to anybody. So pastors have asked, and I've given them access. And there are books, there are PowerPoints, and every year the Inter-American Division director sends things, and they are shared with my counterparts, and they're put in the folder, and anybody who sends me an email, they have access. So the issues, for example, in Northeast, I must commend my counterpart, Dr. Morrison. She focuses, and one of the things the Women's Ministries gives us to is the ability to do surveys. What works at Andrews is not necessarily needed at Regent Street, where I'm from. So leaders are given a survey to check what are our needs, what are the needs in my church, in my community. So when I look in Northeast, there's a breakfast program that the Women's Ministries leaders in a certain Stanton church do. That's what they do. They provide lunches, breakfast for the taxi men, then it expanded to school, to students and to others. That's ministry. So when you go into your community, you look, so if you're in a farming community, your needs may be different from what's happening in another type of community. So those resources are there. So empowerment is a key element of women's ministry. So as we nurture ourselves by doing our Bible studies and so forth, women who, you may just have your laptop, but you have 2 or 3 women, you can take your little laptop, and right there in your home, you have a Bible study with persons right in your community. So we have a lot of resources, but the problem is we need to use them.
Tell our listeners or viewers where we can get access to some of these in terms of websites that you're speaking of.
Well, okay, so there's the General Conference website, and I'm not referring to websites now. I'm referring to folders that I have in
Yes,
Google.
understood.
Yes. So for those who may want to, you can go onto the Women's Ministries website. Just put in AdventistWomen.org, and you'll find resources for every special
that's
day.
General Conference.
General Conference.
Website.
Yeah, that's the main place that we're going to find things.
Right.
But I have more than what is on that, because
that?
When Heather Dawn visited us in 2012, she gave me a thing with all that she had. And there are some new ones that come out that may be on the website.
That needs to be updated.
And yes, that's it. So we have those resources. And if they send an email to women at jmunion.org, I'll send the link to them and they have access to it.
Give us that email again.
So it's women at jmunion, everything common letters, .org.
One more time.
Women at jmunion.org.
So one of the major legacies of the late Heather Dawn, who I think has done a phenomenal job at raising the profile of women's ministries and really making it come to the fore, to the center of conversations, is End It Now. Tell us about End It Now.
Yes, and it started out with ADRA and Women's Ministries in 2009. When she came here in 2012, we gave signatures, we collected signatures and gave her to take back, because at that point they were seeking signatures to say, we want this to be recognized around the world. Initially, it started out as End It Now, ending violence against women and girls. But since 2016, it has been, and as you can see on my little pin from here, the pin says, Adventists say no to violence.
Yes.
So what it is saying, every one of us as Seventh Adventists,
we're standing against violence and abuse.
Violence and abuse. And one of the things that is my passion, End It Now is not August 24 that it is going to be observed this year. End It Now is from January 1 to December 31st. That's what I'm saying to people. So don't wait until August to be talking about End It Now. Do an End It Now summit any time of the year. Do a weekend. Put it, any program I'm doing, you're going to see my End It Now banners, because I'm saying to persons, keep this before people. So I did these little pins, only a few of them, but...
I'm sorry I'm not wearing mine. I have mine.
Yes, you understand me. And I'm saying to people, End It Now means if I hear that a group is out there, I'm going out there with my banner. I'm not going to say, because all of us as Jamaicans must take a stand. And we don't laugh. I tell women, we don't find it funny. We don't send around those videos with men being beaten and saying, oh, the man get beaten by a woman with cutlass and it's funny. It's not funny. It is abuse. Our children must know that they are to be protected. The elderly must know that they should not be abused. Young men must know that. So we are talking about abuse of every kind. We decry all forms of abuse.
Correct. And that's a very good stance, Dr. Vernal, because many times when only one gender takes up the topic of discussion that is really an issue for that gender, it appears as though the other gender should not, you know. For example, we might know that abuse mostly affects women, but there are instances where, in fact, the men are actually abused.
Look how many of our men have been killed, and you know, so we can't. We have to say no type.
No type.
No, we say no to every type.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Dr. Vernal, many individuals know you as the Women's Ministries Director. Persons do not know you, though, as an author and as a conflict resolution specialist. Author. We have Dr. Lorraine Vernal has written the foreword for this book, Justice for Women, by Dr. Jude Janville. And it goes through Old Testament. It's a cry to the pandemic of discrimination, intimidation, abuse and violence against women in society and religious communities. And you have not only done the foreword for this, Dr. Vernal has not only done the foreword for this, but Dr. Vernal's dissertation work is one that I think needs to come to the fore of the discussion. And to close off today's interview, conversation, I want Dr. Vernal to share a little about this book, Justice for Women, number one, but then I want us to get into your dissertation work, because conflicts are a part of not just the family structure, but also the workplace. And if individuals do not know how to properly manage it, it can certainly lead to even terminal endings.
Yes.
So speak to us about Justice for Women. What is this book all about? I know you didn't come to promote it, but I am here to promote it because it's important.
Okay, so as you see, it is written by Dr. Jude Janville from the UK, who visited us this year and met me over the telephone and asked if I would be a part of the project, which I love, and I'm not going to go into it. Why I'm saying that he is a pastor in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and this is something that I've said to my brothers. You just said it. When men speak to certain issues, it makes a difference, because when I speak, it says, oh, she's aggressive. That's how it is seen and interpreted. But when men do certain things, when men come with us and say,
stand up with the woman,
stand up with us,
stand up side by side,
so,
shoulder to shoulder.
So what he has done, and I'm encouraging those who can buy one, it's on Amazon and so forth, and hopefully copies are going to come to Jamaica. It's a theological look at how women are seen in the Bible, which counters certain ideas that people have about, like, women are less than men and so forth, done by a pastor who is using
the lesser vessel.
All of those things, and who many times use the Bible as a whip. But as you say, that's not where we're going. But it's on the premise that we are to be treated equally, which we have a statement that we are one humanity. Comes out of the General Conference. We are one humanity, yet still there are some persons, and I said it to you, Pastor, and I said it to Dr. Jeanville too, that when you gentlemen speak to it, because I listened to the men, and I saw the discussion in GC. I'm not going to tell you that I've gone into details. I was reading again as I prepared, and you saw where there's biblical. People use the Bible to say certain things are okay, and people use the same Bible to say that. So even the discussion reordination, this is not about ordination. This is just saying treat women equally. That's all it is. It doesn't deal with that. So we are saying that you can find it in the Bible to say yes, to support it, and no, and the same Bible to say no. I'm saying, and you said it at the outset, this work is for men and women. And I should not be fighting. When a sister calls me, and this is a real case, to say that Women's Day, and I tell my leaders, women's ministries cannot be for 3 days for the year, or if not, cancel that ministry. Women's Day is from January to December. Women's ministries is from January to December. You have to be involved in ministry right throughout the year. Find things in a community. Include the women from outside the church in women's ministries. When you're having certain programs, include the men. I never give a talk on menopause without including andropause. Yeah. And my men are to be there. So I'm long
to be invited to speak at a women's ministries convention.
And I've been invited to speak at men's
convention. I just think it's wonderful. I think we have a perspective to share.
And it has been done at your Andrews. Years ago, a man was brought in from abroad to speak on Women's Day. Yeah. So these are things, and I've gone to men's meeting, and the men go into a room. Yes. And we talk about women's perspective. Yes. And the men, when the women hear them saying, "It's what to go on with down there." Because when the men went home, they were doing different things, and the wives asking, "Is what happened down there?" Because sometimes the poor men just don't really know.
Not the poor men, but yes, the men.
You know what I mean? The men. No, and I say because sometimes they are blamed, they are told certain things, and they really don't understand why. Yeah. We as women.
I'll invite you to come and speak for the men's convention. But before I'm out of time, your dissertation work on conflict.
So conflict is a process. It's a multifaceted thing. It's an inevitability in life. We're in a sinful world, so we're going to have conflict. So one of the things I've learned, having looked at the various theories of conflict, when I'm going to make a presentation on conflict resolution, I say to people, you have to first have your understanding of conflict. We look at what causes conflict, how to deal with conflict. But you must have in your mindset, how do you understand conflict? Because some people have had conflict over some very simple things. One man went to the pastor saying he wanted to divorce his wife. She take pot cover him food. And for him, that was divorce. But you and I know it's not the pot cover is the problem. They had other issues, but that for him was what pushed it over the edge. So we have to understand that conflict is a process. It affects all of us, but there are ways that are productive that we can deal with conflict. So I've done many presentations on conflict analysis and resolution. So the thing is to understand it, to understand that there are different theories, there are different ways of seeing it, but there are different ways. There are some, if you want to call it, generic ways that are normally, touted as the best, having gone through, quality assurance and all of that. So sometimes it's going to be, sometimes you have to confront the situation to deal with it. Confrontation doesn't mean fight. Confrontation may mean, Doc?
Having the difficult conversation.
Having the difficult conversation. We may compromise. Sometimes you have to just avoid it. Some conflicts are not worth it. Why would I be spending my time to quarrel with a taxi man who I'm not even going to see again? Yet still some people make that become their end. Because the war doesn't stop and they pull last, they pull gun, and then you hear that somebody is dead. So we must know which ones to avoid, which ones to pray about. I put in my presentation that some battles are going to be won through prayer and fasting. And then there are going to be times when we can sit down and work it out logically, compromise, and all of those things. So there are different ways to approach conflict, but when we educate ourselves about the different aspects of conflict, it puts us in a better stance to address conflict.
If I hear you correctly today, you're speaking about nurture, you're speaking about empowerment, that women must be able to have access to information, access to resources to assist them, not just in the local church, but also in their personal life.
Amen.
Your own story is a story that is just awesome. And I have seen God shining through your ministry. You're resilient, you're formidable, and you bring that to the fore. And it's good to see women's ministries like that.
Yes.
I would make some other comments, but not on air. But Dr. Vernal, say a final word to your constituents, your women out there. There are a lot of them who post-burial might be really trying to find their way, navigate through the difficulty. There are others who may not be facing the illiteracy issue, but trying to find the dollar, the extra time, to balance the time, to get an education, to upgrade, to upskill. Speak to your women. What is the message that you would like them to leave with today?
Okay, so we are a faith-believing people. We believe in God. And so there's still power in prayer.
Amen.
And believe that God really wants us to prosper and be in health. That's, if we don't take some of these promises and make them our own, we will just be depressed. Reach out. I went somewhere recently and somebody called me and said, okay, there's somebody I want you to see if you can help. And I met this person who she wanted us to help. And I'm doing what I can to help. And this is somebody who wants, so I'm saying, if you make things, tell me what the cost is so I can say, maybe I can get some sales for you.
Right.
So sometimes we are there suffering alone. We have to have networks. There are persons who are
Community.
Community. Right now, Pastor, I kept saying it, and I am now, somebody is holding me to it. I keep saying we need to have some support systems. Because there are women out there who are lonely, no husband, no man. And because they don't have any friends, they are dying in distress. We need to have communities. We need to reach out. I'm not going to tell them that we're going to find a man for them. But if we have, sometimes it's this loneliness why people are looking somewhere. So, and some people, I tell some women need to leave men alone. In the sense that you have to plan to make changes. If you're going to, so you're not going to just take the man and you fix him and change him. It's about you changing too. So that is another discussion by itself.
It is. I won't even bother.
We won't even go that road. So I'm saying that there are many things, but reach out for help. Talk to somebody. And sometimes we think what you're asking help for is stupid. Ask the stupid thing. Because sometimes it's not as stupid because, somebody reaching out, I say, oh yes, that I know somebody who, and people get help. So I know burial has really done a number on people. But one of the things I'm encouraged when I see people who have really been terribly affected, they are positive. People are helping. And I saw your appeal that you're trying to go down to South. Yes. These are the things. So this is not we talk about. Some of us talk about love, but real love is when we act it out. So, let's do what we can to help. Sometimes there's a neighbor right next door. Some of us looking to go down South. But your neighbor next door might need help.
That is correct.
The tree blow down and they may need.
That is correct.
So let's be vigilant. Let's really believe that Jesus is coming soon and do all we can to make life better for people and to help them to know that there's a God who loves them and coming for them in this world that is so challenging. But what a heaven that is going to be. Let's get ready for Jesus.
And there you have it. The formidable, the dynamic, the firebrand, the lady with the super ministries at Jamaica Union Conference. I don't know how she does it. Women, children's, and adolescents, all of them in one. And she carries those weights under the blood-stained banner of Prince Emmanuel, leading her, guiding her daily through her own challenges. And as you have seen, the Lord has been good to her.
Amen.
This is One-on-One with Dr. Lorraine Vernal. I thank you so very much for joining us right here on Bless TV, the best TV. Catch the vision, join the mission. Until next time, I'm Omar Oliphant. Walk good.